All right, traders, welcome back to another live stream. You guys had a wonderful week. All right, so Bitcoin closing into the weekly Gaussian. This is troublesome. We spoke about this last week, how we were trying to avoid doing that. And, well, we closed inside. Historically, this means that we could be starting a bear market historically. So that is something to take note of. We did come back down to test the yearly open here. As you guys can see on the quarterly chart, we came right back into this liquidity zone. We have a pretty large red candle there coming in. And we can see momentum here is ticking down here on the quarterly. Aspect ratio is tiny. I don't know why that is. Something happened with StreamYard here on my thing. I don't know what it did. Let me see if I can fix it. YouTube is also showing that I have two streams running. I don't also know why that is. Anyways. Well, okay. I guess I'll try to resolve that here in a second. Maybe I can delete this one or something. Okay. All right. Let's see. Here we go. Okay, better? All right, cool. All right, yeah, so let's take a look at the tether chart, because that we were talking about last week being pretty bullish looking, and that is why we're seeing this momentum move to the downside in the market. We did actually just close the weekly and trigger a weekly long. And I would say it's likely that we're going to see we could get maybe a bounce in this region, because I'm sure the daily here is pretty extended. It's really not, actually. It looks like it can still, yeah. So the daily RSI on Tether is at like a 76. So it's entering overbought territory on the daily and the 2-day and the 3-day charts here. You can see. So the market's been bleeding for like the last basically month. But the problem is that these high time frames are suggesting we could see some more blood. All right, so we could get like a couple days or maybe even a few days of relief in these markets, but I don't suspect it's going to reverse a trend by any means because of these high time frames. Okay, you can see here on a relative volatility index that Bitcoin's relative volatility is way down, like it was back during, actually almost as low as the May or June 22 lows. So that's an interesting thing to look at, okay, in terms of where it's at on its volatility. And our weekly stochastics are oversold here, okay, but we don't have a confirmed cross up. We don't have any of the things that would suggest major trend reversal or major rallies like that. But what we can see is we could come back up to test these wicks at like 100K. Okay, this region up here, I think if they don't just continue nuking this thing down, which I think that most of the market is probably net short right now. You also have daily RSI that's oversold. 2-day RSI also in oversold territories. We're as oversold as we were in February and in July of 24 and August of 23. The difference is the market structure, right? So when we were oversold in these regions, we were above Gaussian channel. We were above 50-week moving average or slightly below it. And we weren't starting to roll over this whole trend, okay? And so that's the difference. The difference is the momentum shift, okay? And so, yeah, the market's in extreme fear right now. We're extreme fear levels. I think we're at like 10 right now on the fear reading. 14, we just printed a 14 today. But you can see over the course of the last month, we've basically been in extreme fear. All right. Now, during bear markets, we're typically in fear. Like if we go look at 2021, 2022, even after that first major sell-off in 2021, we went down to an 11 reading and we got a bounce in the market, right? And we made a lower high and then we made lower lows. June 22 was basically the FTX collapse, or like right around that time period where we're reading a 6 reading. So we're printing pretty close to those lows, which is interesting, okay? Now, given we're following, our typical 4-year cycle, which, so far there's no real reason to believe that we're not. And like I said, this whole thing here about closing inside the Gaussian channel is definitely going to be problematic for the price. It always has been, and I would assume that it always will be, until proven otherwise, of course. This metric here is just something that we've seen time and time again in these markets kind of come to fruition. So it's basically the law of following the same type of pattern, right? So if the pattern breaks, that's great. Then we can't really use this as a metric anymore, right? But so for right now, there's no real reason to think that this is going to be able to get itself out of here successfully, is what I'm trying to say. Do I think we're going to get an oversold rally here? Sure, we can get a relief rally. In fact, I think that's what we're probably going to get right here because we just came into a major liquidity sweep, okay, of the yearly open. So I think that that's likely, and we can probably, like I said, maybe around this 100K region, maybe even up to this 105 region. That would be actually right back up to the top of the Gaussian channel. This region right here, okay? We could do something like this where we come up here and over the next couple days or whatever, maybe sometime this week, even it's possible that we get this move, okay? Given the equities markets aren't rolling over and the indices aren't completely rolling over yet, it's possible we do get that move up. But it could just be a good opportunity to de-risk some stuff, okay? And that's kind of what I'd be looking at right now. And here's the tether chart. We're coming into a daily supply zone. I do think that we're at a top of a range here, and lots of people are still shorting this market. And I think we're going to get we're probably going to get some sort of bounce is what I think what will happen here. Okay, we even have like lower time frames kind of trying to clip here. Our daily is way overbought. Like I said, our 2 days overbought, our 3-day entering overbought territory. These are all areas where people would be probably taking some long trades with some tight stop losses. Okay. And I could also be wrong, and this just continue its way down. Like it does have that momentum to the downside, and it can stay overbought for some time. Just like when we're in bull runs, Tether stays oversold for some time, right? So, yeah, I don't know which way this is actually gonna really go. I mean, I want to see some sort of relief here. You would think that you would get some sort of relief on something like this right here. So no chance for alts. Yeah, I'm not really seeing any of that happen right now, the way this looks. If Bitcoin's gonna go into a downtrend here for the next few months or a year, like if Bitcoin does this, for example, okay, and we come back up to like 103 and get rejected, and then we make this low down to like 75K, that's going to be a really strong area of support. I do suspect this is going to give us some sort of big bounce, but we could end up then breaking this major structure, and this could end up taking us down to like 50K regions eventually, maybe end of next year or something. It could take some time for all that to happen. Okay, but typically Bitcoin finds a bottom around the 52-week moving average or slightly below it. So like last cycle, the 52-week moving average was like right around 20K. We had deviation below it because of the FTX collapse. And then we had all this bullish divergence down here to get us out of this trend. Okay. And so right now, we don't necessarily have any of that, right? We just have an RSI breakdown. We've entered into bearish control zone on the weekly. The 2-week here is coming into the bullish control zone. My problem is this monthly chart, with this bearish divergence up here that's playing out, that crossed the signal line, that's giving us a signal of further downside on the high time frame. Okay, it's not like the monthly stochastics are oversold, right? If the monthly stochastics were oversold, like back here in December of 22, we'd probably be having a different conversation right now. Like, maybe this is the bottom, but it's not that. Okay. And yeah, I agree. IJ Money. Yep, I agree. So, I mean, you can plot this long-term trend line here on the monthly time frame. You can see that we're coming into it. I think that we probably should get a bounce in the yearly open here and the quarterly open here, as there's lots of liquidity right here, right at this region. Okay. And down to this like $82,000 region. And once you start taking that out, yeah, there's liquidity here at 70K and at these levels here at 60. Okay. Probably more liquidity than previous cycles because of the institutional demand for Bitcoin. But that's not to say that this isn't just gonna roll over after these oversold bounces or rallies, because the momentum isn't in its favor. The momentum is in the opposite direction right now. So just something to take note of, right? And people asking about an altcoin run and people asking about all that stuff. There's an issue with liquidity in this market right now. There has been for this entire run because of a quantitative tightening environment, which is why we haven't even seen Ethereum rally, right? We saw XRP make a move. We actually did see ETH make a move. It just didn't make an all-time high, right? And so that's like, hey, well, we're going to see QT come in here in December. Everyone's all excited about that potential, but I'm not really seeing that play out a real factor, a real role, because if Bitcoin is going to be collapsing or going down in price, it doesn't make sense for ETH to really just rally without Bitcoin. It would make more sense if Bitcoin was just maybe sitting in a range and maybe sideways for a while. And then liquidity comes in and bids out, Ethereum or some altcoins, sure. But with this type of momentum that I'm seeing on these high timeframes for Bitcoin, I don't really see how ETH is going to produce any sort of real rally. I don't really see it right now, anyway. Right, you even have monthly stochastics crossing down here on ETH. Okay, like your 2 month. The thing that was keeping me kind of bullish on ETH was these quarterly stochastics. I mean, I guess we'll see. Like I said, I just don't see how it's going to be possible for ETH to really catch a bid if Bitcoin's not even catching a bid or even staying sideways or something. All right. And so, yeah. And so here you go. Bitcoin's actually doesn't even care about being oversold right now. It's just going to continue its back testing 94,306 and continuing the trend. Yeah. All right. So unfortunately, I don't have any good news for you guys, but just be aware that this is going to get probably a lot worse before it gets better. The good news is you'll be able to buy Bitcoin a lot lower. So stay tuned for that. And it could be something like this, where we come down to about this 80, I would say the $80,000. If this doesn't hold, we're going to probably go to the $80,000 region pretty quickly. Yep. Yeah, I agree. The fear in the market is what is really an alarming thing to see. Not an alarming thing to see. Is tough to believe that we're just going to continue going straight down. Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think so. I think there's going to be a relief, a rally. I would even venture to guess that we just go back up to test even these major moving averages up here, like this 109 region, and we could just go up to reject it. We could just go up to reject it and then break further down. We could do something like that. But I'll say the difference is that we're below the 50-week and we're in the Gaussian channel. That's the real difference of these previous corrections that we had in this market cycle, right? We also didn't have all that bearish divergence and momentum crossing down and lots of technical things that were not the same as this current correction that we're going through right now. That's the real key, the real difference that I'm seeing. Okay. Sure, yeah, no like double top like 2021 cycle. I wouldn't even say that this was a blow off top for Bitcoin. It wasn't exuberant. That's the thing that's really tricky here, is that none of this stuff was really that euphoric in this market. For this just to end right now, it doesn't really compute, but it doesn't really matter. I mean, maybe they didn't want it. The institutions didn't really want it to be euphoric. They just wanted to bring the price down and keep retail out and continue to keep retail out so they can accumulate it. My weekly wave trend is starting to flash oversold indications here, but it can continue to go down because this wave trend is just breaking the median. Like back here in 2022, we broke the median. This is when we actually made our bottom. So yeah, actually I'd be looking for that. So like once the weekly actually really gets to this oversold region, it'll probably likely be at the bottom when it does that, because I would then assume that our weekly RSI is in the oversold region. And typically when Bitcoin gets to oversold regions on the weekly, it usually is bottoming out, or is usually the bottom for Bitcoin. So we're really not even that far from it. I mean, we could maybe go to like 70K or something and maybe bottom it out. I don't know. I agree, but why can't we go to like 70K? That's not an 80% drawdown. Even this region here, yeah, this like 60K region, like even 50K seems about right. That's a 60% drawdown for Bitcoin. And that would still be in the bounds of this massive rising wedge structure that we're in. That actually seems kind of likely. Because if we break this long-term structure, this thing is going to break all the way down to like $20,000 or something. And that would be outrageous to see. So I wouldn't suspect that. But I think likely 50, yeah, and the 52-week moving average is right around 55K. So going to like 45 or even 50K would be slight range deviation from the major moving average, and that could probably be where we end up bottoming out, somewhere in there. Sure, and that would not be actually that bad. 60% drop from the top. Bitcoin typically does, or has typically done, 76%, 80% drawdowns. In previous cycles when there was not as much institutional money that's coming in, we didn't have these ETFs. Yeah, I think something along those lines is possible. I don't know about a $40,000 Bitcoin. That would be pretty cheap. I guess it just really depends on what happens with the Fed and the money printing, and how steep the stock market really kind of corrects, or if it goes into a bear market. That was all going to affect liquidity for Bitcoin too. It's all about this cycle, yeah. So there you go. I think liquidity affects it too. Because we would have had an alt season if we weren't in such a tightening environment, for sure. Yeah, but that's going to already be like, it doesn't really matter though. Like they're going to crank it anyway. We know that they're going to crank it. It's just they're going to want to buy cheap assets. The 92K gap is not too far away. That's right, IJ Money. The only real thing that we could see for the Fed printing is their balance sheet, right? If this balance sheet starts to rip, then you know that they're buying assets. Did we create a gap to the upside? I don't think so. No, there's no gaps on the futures chart here on the daily. But yeah, we're at the median right now of the Gaussian, so I suspect we are going to get a bounce here. I don't think we're just going to pile right through this. This is a major moving average, moving a major support region. But we could bounce, make a lower high, and then roll over again. You know, that's kind of where I think we're at. We're not really like in any sort of sustained move. We are tagging a major moving average here on Tether. So that is something. If this stays below that, that's good. Our relative volatility index also kind of looks like it peaked on the weekly briefly. So like I said, I think we're going to see some relief here. We'll see what kind of rally we do get out of this. I guess we'll stay tuned. And like I said, I think, you know, the 105 to maybe even the 109 region will maybe get tagged. Where that death cross kind of happened, usually we'll get some sort of move back into that. Yeah, we'll see how this plays out. Looks pretty bad. High time frames here. Monthly rolling over. Even the 2-month. Got the confirmed cross down. We haven't closed below the 80 level, but as soon as you start crossing down like that, it's not good news. Why, if MicroStrategy has to sell, does that mean GG? Well, if they have to sell their Bitcoin, that means that's going to probably inherently affect the spot price. I mean, they're probably not going to sell on, well, I guess I don't know where they're going to sell it, but if they sell it on like spot markets, they're going to wreck the price. But they don't buy on the spot market, so why would they sell on the spot market? I don't know. I can't really answer that. I don't know. So I think, like, yeah, it just depends on how much like margin or collateral obligations they have tied to it. So if they reach their threshold for collateral, then they have to start liquidating assets to pay the debt, right? Right. I don't know what their cash position or holdings are right now. I know that their average price, I think, for acquiring all the Bitcoin is somewhere in the $70,000 or $80,000 region now. So if Bitcoin really does go to like 50K, they're probably going to have to liquidate some of their Bitcoin to pay debt obligations. Yeah. That is scary, yes. Because they own like pretty much most of the Bitcoin. Yeah, I don't really know what would really cause. I mean, last bear market, I mean, they didn't have anywhere nearly the amount of Bitcoin that they have now, like the 2021 bear market. But well, the good news is we don't have like contagion like we had last bear market with like Luna and all these crap coins like that. So that's good. We don't know what the fallout is. Yeah. There's probably some exchanges that are wrecked right now for sure, or some hedge funds that are wrecked right now. It's probably true. I'm not really worried about BitMEX. Oh, we were talking about MEXC. They're a low tier exchange anyway. Not really too concerned about them. I'd be more worried if like Binance or Coinbase were insolvent or something. Yeah, I'm not really worried about MEXC being insolvent. I don't even think that they are insolvent, but I have no idea. That's a great question. I would say that is definitely maybe they're. I mean, if they end up lying, it's their credibility. So maybe they're not lying. There's always a bull run coming. Yes, there is. Yes. After one ends, there's always one after it, right? Binance has the most risk. I think they're like buddy with Coinbase now, though, to be honest. Like, why would Coinbase list them if they weren't sharing liquidity or something? You think Tether, yeah. No, but Tether like owns a load of US treasuries. Like they're the 7th largest holder of US treasuries. And they also own a crap load of Bitcoin. I don't really know what the contagion would be for this run. I really don't know. You think Binance? But dude, there's like literally there's no retail in this market right now. Like they all got wiped out. It's true. That is true. Well, anyways, to reiterate, I think we are going to get some sort of relief move here. off this liquidity zone. I would look for lower highs. Yeah, we can check ICP. Sure. Yikes. Yeah. Okay. So ICP, I remember last stream, I was saying we could get this rejection up here. We did. We got that. It's right back down to the range lows. Okay, you're making a higher low than these previous lows, so that's good. Daily reset here. You're holding above this major support level, so that's good. This 460 level, I would say, is a pretty big level for it to stay above. But all you've done so far here, Toe, is make lower highs, right? And, you know, closing below these major weekly moving averages. We'll take a look at Zcash if it's still ripping. Yeah, it's nuts if it is. Okay. You really want to take out 985 on a weekly close. If you can do that, you're talking about going to $20 and higher if you can really take that stuff out. If not, you're probably just going to go sideways down here, or maybe even retest these range lows. After that big, I would call it pump and dump. So that's what that was. No, I do think you're fine above, like I said, this 460 level, 450, 460 level. Yeah, go produce a higher high, man. If this is going to flag out of here, if this really is going to be bullish, then you should see something like that later on. That sucks, man. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, we'll take a look at Zcash. Oh, wow. Yep, this thing is still trying to break out. It's interesting. Yeah, it's major level resistance right here at 755. I don't even know what this is. This was like when it launched or something. Crazy. Very, very, very overbought. You're at a 95 on the weekly. Do not buy Zcash up here, guys. This thing is gone. It is not in a value area. It's up 38x since July of 24. Cool. Zcash to the moon. Yes, sure. Anything else you guys want to take a look at? Anything you guys are eyeing for this bounce here? All right, so ETH coming back down to this fib level here, bouncing right at the major moving averages here. I would say you have room up to like 3,500 on ETH, this region. We'll look at NVIDIA. Yeah, sure. NVIDIA has earnings this week. Oh. Holding above its major support, 182. Man, NVIDIA is also in the moon. This would be nuts if NVIDIA like beats their earnings and it just takes out this long-term trend line and just runs like parabolic, like even more so. That would be absolutely insane. Well, the monthly actually is still kind of crossing up on your momentum wave here. And the weekly is also crossing up. Yeah, this would be nuts. If this did up. No, dude, I think they're going to squeeze him, bro. I really, yeah, I think we're going to get a nice short squeeze back up. we're at major moving averages. You know, like I said, Bitcoin's at a major liquidity zone. Tether's probably overbought here on the shorter time frames. So this should come down, even though we did print a weekly long. Hopefully this is just like a short-lived move, man, and this thing just gets hosed. That'd be awesome. Oh, yeah? That would send it really hard. That would send it really hard. JMIA. Yeah, we'll take a look at it. Ooh. All right, man. So you came up to the top of this range and you got some rejection. Okay. I see what you're seeing with this wick coming in here on the weekly. But I still think that maybe you can consolidate more before you really set this thing up for another move. Right? Just watch this weekly momentum. It's coming down. And your weekly RSI also is very extended, 72. I would refrain from this right now. Wait for a reset. Wait for this to completely reset. Maybe by the time it, consolidates down to like $6 or something, you get that reset. This would give you a pretty good entry down here. I don't know what this stock does, but to me, towards the top of a range, you don't really want to be typically buying into that. Or I don't anyway. So yeah, just look for some consolidation. I think that would be healthy to see. Anything above this like 650 region that can hold, make a higher low here and you can pivot. That'd be great to see, because that'd be great to, like I said, that'd be good to see a higher low pivot there somewhere. Source, trust me, bro. Yeah. Okay, we looked at NVIDIA. Look at NASDAQ. Yeah. NASDAQ. Yeah, not the best. Closure on Friday on the weekly. But it's up 0.5% right now. That's good. We're holding above the daily, it looks like the 200-day moving average. Put in like a doji reversal candle on Friday. We got this down sloping trend line here we're looking at on the NASDAQ. There's probably a bit of divergence after these movements down that we saw. We can also see that our daily is starting to flash here. So that's good. We had okay. Did we close into the Gaussian channel though? I don't think so, right? That was the only key thing for me, was the Gaussian channel on the weekly chart. That I'm not. Yeah, I don't think we did, man. I don't think we did. I think we had wicks. We didn't have closures inside. That's really the kicker for me. So it was September, right, of 24. Yeah, so we didn't actually have any candle body closes inside. And this is the wick you're talking about in August, right, where we tagged it. We came off of it and came back down to it here. No candle body closes inside on the weekly Gaussian channel. Even here, even this candle here in April, it was a wick. We closed candles outside. Yeah. Yeah, this is unfortunately the real kicker for me, that this is it. It's going to be very difficult for Bitcoin to just come out of that. I've never seen it actually just come out of it once it's in it. Once it's in it, it's just quicksand for the price. It's unfortunate, but that's what it does. Maybe this time's different. Probably not, unfortunately. But coming back up to test the 50-week can happen. Coming back up to test these liquidity wicks here can happen. Like I said, this $100,000 region will probably be retested. And again, we've never had a cycle end without a blow off top. Yeah, it's true. We also never had a cycle where we had ETFs and Bitcoin making a new all-time high before our halving event too. These are also all the things, right? That's been blow off chop, yeah. Yep. It's pretty much been that. Oh, what's Polymarket say, man? We don't have momentum on our side. Oh yeah, Polymarket was right. Well, anyways, okay. Well, like I said, I think we're going to get a short-term, probably relief rally here, relief move here. Maybe, like I said, back to like this $100,000 region. It could surprise us back to maybe 105 or something, to test some of these moving averages or close to it. But like I said, the closures inside the weekly Gaussian channel are usually not good signs. Usually not. So yeah, just looking at fib extensions here, we can see, I guess, let me draw this. Okay, yeah, so we had like a little bit of deviation outside this fib here. So yeah, like 88K, this region right here, 90K, whatever. This is a fib extension. How is that doing, actually? Seemed like it was still holding up somehow. This actually was still kind of holding its structure, interestingly enough. It's making lower momentum waves here. It is a bit oversold on the weekly stochastic. The 2-week is entering oversold. Yeah. Yeah. For now, it's holding its structure. I don't know for how much longer it's going to do that. Oh my God. All right. Well, so here we go. Bitcoin back over 95. Tether dominance coming down a bit here. And we're going to see how big of a relief rally we do get. I do suspect we could see Tether come back down to the 5.5 region here. Maybe even down to this wick, 5.7. I think maybe back to this 5.5, though, that region there. BTC back to 125K. Yeah, that'd be great to see. That'd be great to see. That would kind of negate the whole weekly Gaussian channel issues and below the 50-week moving average. It's really all about, unfortunately, really what this momentum on this Tether chart is doing. And it's going to have a lot of impact to what these prices do. So that's it. Well, I think there's only like a 60% chance of that now happening. I mean, the chart's are already telling you it's over, dude. Like the high time frame's telling you that. Like it's not like they can change the high time frame charts without them materializing into those moves first. Anyways. We are starting to flash some overbought stuff on the weekly here. Cool. So let's get some relief. It's probably some really nice altcoin trades here that'll probably get some action on something like this. What's ING looking like down here? Oof. I mean, this below the monthly Gaussian was ended up being the bottom last time for INJ. Weekly RSI oversold. This could actually be not a bad place to scoop some of this. That looks interesting. Just throw it out there. Remember, this one ran in 2023 and 2024. Now, it may not run again. I'm just saying that. But oversold down here is on the weekly like that's pretty good. It doesn't mean anything, though. It doesn't mean momentum shift. It could just mean you get an oversold bounce, which could be significant, by the way, for something like this. All right, we could go back up to test like 950. That's a big move. It's like a 50% move. Okay, yep, something to consider. Have a good night. So, yep. Strax. Well, weekly RSI is oversold. So there's that. Broke ranges. Yeah, I mean, maybe you can come back up to test 3.8. Yeah, this coin is not doing too hot. Yeah, so I mean, if we are going to get upside on all this stuff, like it makes sense for this to come back up to test 3.8. If it gets any action. Yeah, like the 4-hour maybe. Low time frames here look like you might get some sort of pop or something. 3 cents. This region here got rejected in 3.5. Can't wait for that 3.8. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Anyways, anything else you guys want to look at before I jump here? How's this hyperliquid coin doing? Oh. McRib is back, yeah. I saw that. It's funny. The monthly crossing bearish here on the hyperliquid. Benjamin Moore doesn't have a stock, dude. You guys are Berkshire Hathaway. Look at Berkshire Hathaway. Yeah, Berkshire Hathaway looks fine. Weekly chart. That looks like it's probably going to make new highs. Google. Google basically went into price discovery. So yeah, you break like 300. You can look at like 315, 330s, 350s. Now this region here. It's not to say you can't come back down to 250s. Then we get pullbacks here. But these high time frame candles look fine. I don't see any like major rejections or major wicks on these candles right now on the high time frames for Google anyway. I guess it just depends on how you look at this chart. But I think it's got some room, maybe up to like 350s. The quarterly is still looking good. It's getting up there on your RSI though. Monthly is probably up there. Yeah. You got a bit of, on the weekly, you can see you got a bit of weekly bearish divergence there, which could bring the price down a bit. Maybe back to 250s. Retest that breakout area. I heard he rolled Apple for Google, yeah. I think that has a lot to do with the PE ratios, though, because technically, if you look at PE ratios, Google's still cheap relative to its revenue. So that's why I think he did that. I don't think it has anything to do with technicals on the chart. This guy doesn't care about that. He just cares about revenue, price per earnings ratios, probably. It's probably not even him. It's like the people that are, working for him or with him. But so yeah, that makes sense because Google, like I said, PE ratio is still relatively cheap based on its current price. If we close like above 105, I would say that's pretty good. We do that. How about this? And we can get out of the Gaussian channel. Yeah, 105. Like if we can actually just get out of this whole thing, like it never happened. Sure. Yeah, like 105. We need a candle body close up here though. 105.2, basically. I don't know. I was never really in that camp. I was always in the camp of like we were gonna run to Q4. And that was really it. But we never really saw an alt run, so I don't know. I really don't know how this is gonna play out, man. I'd be lying if I knew exactly how this is gonna play out. Don't. But these altcoins are absolutely destroyed. We're really gonna go through another year bear market, and these alts are just gonna go to zero. A lot of them, most of them. I guess so. I mean, these institutions don't really care about them. Only the ones that they're putting ETFs out for. which makes sense. So. Right. No future value, right? Because a lot of these the markets are always forward looking. Most of the time anyway. The ETH ETF didn't help that much. Well, the problem was when it launched like right around the same time that Bitcoin's launched, right? And the ETH Bitcoin ratio wasn't really favorable for them to rotate Bitcoin into ETH, right? Nice. So, a lot of institutions and funds and whoever really pays attention to these charts kind of know that. So that didn't make sense for them to rotate. That's why we saw a big rotation in April, because the ETH Bitcoin ratio bottomed out, or I would say it hit the bottom of the ratio. And that happened to be a very low risk area to do that. So, well, you know what? Let's take a look at the ETH Bitcoin ratio right now. Actually, I'm curious about that. All right. So yeah. So this was the April low. I mean, the quarterly candle doesn't really look terrible right now against the ETH Bitcoin pairing. And so our weekly just reset, which is good. Maybe we get a bit more of consolidation here on the ETH BTC ratio. Yeah, as long as you're making higher lows, I think it's fine. This looks like maybe looks like a consolidation against Bitcoin here. You do have we're back. This is a major level of support right here, the double line on the daily, the ETH Bitcoin ratio. So would be cool to see ETH kind of catch a bid here off this kind of relief move. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, ETH's pullback really isn't really even that bad considering what it just did. 40% drawdown after like a 3x or something. 250% move. Yeah, that's we got a little bit of daily bull div here on ETH. And there's some 2-day hidden bullish divergence here as well. So we'll see what this materializes into. We could get this move back up to like 3,500, like I'm talking about, right? If Bitcoin can really just come out of this, which would be an amazing thing to see, then ETH will obviously also be able to do that. Okay. I'm not calling for that. What I am saying is that we could do something like this, 3,500, back to the top of this range, see what kind of reaction we get there. If it does reclaim it, then that's extremely bullish thing to see. But that would have to mean Bitcoin is reclaiming its ranges too. Okay. All right, man. Well, hopefully we get a nice push back up next couple days here. And beyond that, I don't really know what's going to happen after that, because like it just doesn't make sense that we're just going to go making all-time highs right now with all that stuff happening on those high time frame charts. Guess we'll find out shortly. We got weekly range band deviation here, so this should pop back up. All right. Thanks for tuning in, guys. And catch you guys next week.
Hey everyone, you've landed on the Swing Trade Pros website here. My name is Mr. Know-It-All. I've been an active swing trader for over 7 years. I want to welcome you guys all to the community here. My goal is to change 1 million people's lives with swing trading and trading profitably. This is a skill set you can learn here with the service. You go check out the testimonials in Discord. You can see lots of folks talking about the service and how the trade calls are super profitable. You can check Profit Gains channel. I think we've amassed around $150,000 worth of profits in the last year posted in the Profit Gains channel just from other users and traders in the community. I'd like all of you guys to check out the 14-day free trial. A coupon code will be pinned in the comment section below this video, so check it out. And we'll take you through 14-day free trial process here. You come down to the website, save 44%, and claim your 14-day free trial. Click on that. And that will take you to the Swing Trade Pros website where you can click sign up now. And after your 14-day free trial is up, on the 15th day, you will get billed, full disclosure of that. And I appreciate you guys all joining the community. It will change your lives. Give it a chance. A lot of these swing trades can take months. One of our biggest trades of the year last year was INJ. We took an entry at $1.60, and well, that asset's trading over $35 today. So that was one of the banger trades that I pointed out. My strongest pattern that I trade that I'm known for is the falling wedge. I call it the falling node wedge pattern. Lots of divergence on these charts, and that's what makes these patterns really play out. And you guys are going to be able to really learn that in the service, and I really hope you enjoy it. Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you guys on the charts.